Joining us now is our reporter JD Conti, and I know we've talked quite about this in the past. Data centers. I know we've talked about, what was it, a few weeks back, this was up for discussion, and now once again, we're talking about it again. Talk us through exactly where we are today when it comes to data centers in East Texas.
Yeah, so there's a couple on the ground in East Texas, and they're all in their different little phases and what's going on. Obviously, the one that we've covered a lot is the one up in Sulphur Springs,
Yes.
and the one that's kind of in a pause right now because of all of the legal litigation on that. There was a ruling in the court case a couple of weeks ago. That's basically the judge kind of hit a pause on that and said that that deed can be enforced until the lawsuit trial in September. So that is kind of giant pause button right now, and that's not being worked on right now. So won't go into further detail on that. And then there's actually been one announced down in Lufkin. Don't have a whole lot of details on that right now, but just looking back on our KTRE story, there's one been announced. Don't have a whole lot of details on it, but long story short, they're popping up all over the state. Regulators are attracted here because of, developers are attracted here because of less regulations in general.
Right.
So I believe we're second to the Virginia in the entire country because in terms of the amount of data centers we have. Somebody might have checked me on that. But they're popping up all over. There's a really big one in Amarillo. There's another one in Lubbock. They're all over the state there. I believe there's over 30. And there's more coming in. And the big question is, how are they going to power themselves? And a lot of them are going to power themselves, and that's an important distinction here. Like the one in Sulphur Springs, if that ever gets off the ground, developers say it's going to power itself because it's so big that it has to.
Right.
If it plugged into the grid, the power would be more than the Metroplex.
It would just
It would basically blow us all up, Like if it somehow plugged in, it would basically shut everything down.
because there's just so much.
Some of them are so big they have to power themselves.
Got it.
But not all of them are. And what we're going to be talking about today in this story, it's not just data centers. It's some large capacity things like crypto mines, like some solar things that have to plug into the grid. So what they did today at ERCOT is they basically went ahead and they kind of had this meeting and said, okay, we've got a lot of projects that have come in the last few years and are going to come in the next few years, and we really don't know what to do with them.
Right.
So they've got what it's called right now batch zero. It's a certain amount of projects. They don't know how many there are, but basically saying, what are we going to do with these things? And their goal is they have a very outline of what they're going to do, what the recommendations are, what these projects need to do to get on this list to be in batch zero, and then after that to be batch one and batch two.
Right.
And right now the tentative date is that they're thinking that 2033 is when they're going to really have the infrastructure upgrades on the grid to get pretty much everything on right now that's already been requested.
Okay.
But right now, they can't just do it all. So they're hoping that in June, they'll have this plan approved. They can go ahead and really start to research what's already been requested. And then after that, we'll talk about 6 months. Maybe we'll get one on, and then another that. And all of these will be looked at individually. And what they're looking at is, how much power is this thing doing? Is it something that we can do at this time? How much thing has this already been developed? Is this something that's been waiting a long time? Just things like that. And leaders at ERCOT really do recognize that this is something that is still happening, and there's new projects coming in every day.
Right.
So it's a very fluid situation. They want to have these regulations that the developers have to go by the end of this month. I believe March 4th is their next workshop. They're having a series of workshops, and then they want to have this plan approved by the ERCOT Board of Directors in June. So there's a lot of these popping up all over the state, and the big question is, what are we going to do?
Right.
And like I said, some of them are going to power themselves, but it's a massive question. It's a big issue in Texas right now because these things take up a lot of power, and there's the whole water issue we can get into as well.
I also want to know if this game plan is a way to kind of help avoid any kind of legal battles in the future, or is this something that's a little bit separated from that?
Yeah, so each project is going to have its own thing.
Right.
So this is just talking about power.
Okay.
Like up in Sulphur Springs, that is its own entity. This has nothing to do with power. This has nothing to do with what's going on up there.
Right.
But this is talking about a larger scale. Let's say we've got 40 projects that have come in this year. To put it into perspective, ERCOT is working on over 200 gigawatts of large-scale projects right now. And a gigawatt powers, according to the Department of Energy, around 700,000 homes. So 200 times 700,000.
Yeah.
That's, I can't do that in my head. That's like billions of, millions, billions of homes. That's more than the state of Texas, more than the country.
So this is more of a safeguard on the electric side of things.
Yeah, and we're already working on the grid in Texas.
Right.
And like, how are we going to handle that? And legislative session, they did pass a bill kind of saying, okay, this is the standard of what we're going to call a large scale project. And they set that at 75 megawatts. I'm not an electrical engineer, so I'm not going to tell you if that was good or not. But they also said that developers have to contribute to grid improvements. Say, you know what, if you're going to come here, Texas, we love you. Please come give us your tax dollars, but you need to help us with grid improvements because, we could use the money.
Well, if you're tapping into the grid system or if you're generating that energy, you would want it to be everyone benefits in that same aspect,
Yes.
right? And they've already done, ERCOT has done quite a bit of improvements from the big winter storm that we saw several years ago. So why not add on to the improvements and the progress and making it a joint effort?
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe the figure was that 70% of those large scale projects are data centers, and the rest of them are, like I said, Bitcoin and other things. So it'll be interesting to see how these things play out and how it'll play out across the state. And like you said, everyone is going to be different. There might be an issue up in Amarillo with something that pops up there because the town is doing something, and there might be a water issue or there might be a legal issue somewhere.
Right.
Not all of these things are going to come into play at the same time.
Right.
And just because you've been waiting doesn't mean you're going to get into batch zero. You might get some wattage now, but not all of it. It's just a really kind of puzzle that we don't have all the pieces to yet.
Right. But that hopefully that will be cleared up with the next meeting that they have. And you said it's coming up in March.
Yes, they've got another workshop in March, and that's when they kind of want to have more of these regulations and what they want to look for from developers finished. And at this meeting today, there were people from Google and a lot of other developers there. So really asking a lot of questions, and listening to them today, they were really giving a lot of feedback to ERCOT, but the resounding thing from the developers was, this is a lot better than what we had a month ago.
Yes.
And I didn't listen to that meeting, but they said a month ago that was not good, and this is a lot better than what we had now. And just kind of hearing that feedback from developers, it was like, okay, we understand this might not all happen now,
Right.
but we're going to get there, and this plan is a lot better than what we had a month ago.
It almost sounds like they weren't fully on board the last meeting, and now that they're seeing things that are a little bit more concrete, and they're going to continue to see more and more concrete plans and a game plan of how this is all going to come together. That's interesting. I'm curious to see how
curious to see how the plan will change from now until June.
Yes.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
We'll see. And
All right.
it's always interesting to see how things that are written in Austin impact us here at the local level in Tyler, in Longview, Lufkin, Lubbock, Amarillo, wherever this is happening.
Right. Well, thank you for the update, because I know this has kind of been in the back of our minds.
Yep,
these
it's a big
data
one.
centers. Yes.
It's a big one.
It is. So we'll continue to keep you updated, and I know you'll be doing so as well. We'll have
Absolutely.
more on this coming up later tonight. Thank you so much, Judy.
Yeah.
We